Well, hello and welcome. I'm Elisa V, co-host of the Mel Carmine Show, and I want to welcome you to a very special show that we have today and what will also be a series going forward. We're coming to you today on the heels of the Quantum Summit 2 in Cape Canaveral this past weekend. What an amazing event it was. We had such interesting and knowledgeable speakers. In fact, Laura Eisenhower, she was there with us, and what an amazing and incredible job you did on your panel discussions and your solo presentations. So no sooner did the Quantum Summit 2 end that the creative juices started flowing, and we're beginning the planning of Quantum Summit 3. So there'll be more details to come, but I can assure you that as phenomenal as Quantum Summit 2 was, Quantum Summit 3.0 is going to be off the charts. So stay tuned. Now, today, as I said, we're launching a new series called the Quantum Sisterhood Roundtable Global Consciousness. And we have some of the leading female voices in the spiritual and geopolitical arenas gathered here for this new series. And our goal is to pool our respective knowledge, personal experience, professional backgrounds, and intuition, and bring you intriguing and provocative conversations about the current state of Mother Earth and the geopolitical landscape through the lens of spirituality.
But before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is, without question, the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, T-shirts. You got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want. Gold and silver. Welcome to CarminesGold.com. Don't waste not even a second looking. Cheaper prices just don't exist. How important is it for you to own gold and silver right now? What does it mean to me personally? There's an economy that's about to crash beyond what words can explain. In 5 words, I'm going to educate you on gold and silver. Are you ready? You need to own some. Simple.
Hi, Elisa V here. Did you know that medical bills are the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, accounting for 66.5% of bankruptcies? In fact, in 2022, 17% of adults with healthcare debt either declared bankruptcy or lost their homes due to it. We can all agree that the healthcare system is broken. Well, there is an alternative that I want to tell you about. It is Impact Health Sharing, which Yahoo News is calling the disruptor in the $4.6 trillion healthcare system. With Impact Health Sharing, you can choose the doctors, clinics, and naturopaths that you want with less restrictive guidelines. Medical bills are reduced to their fair market value, and premiums are 30 to 72% cheaper than competitors. Plus, Impact Health incentivizes healthy habits like supplements, gym visits, and therapy. Call 844-275-1056 and use the code MELCARMINE for a free quote today. Well, hello and welcome. I'm Elisa V, co-host of the Mel Carmine Show, and I want to welcome you to a very special show that we have today and what will also be a series going forward. We're coming to you today on the heels of the Quantum Summit 2 in Cape Canaveral this past weekend. What an amazing event it was. We had such interesting and knowledgeable speakers. In fact, Laura Eisenhower, she was there with us, and what an amazing and incredible job you did on your panel discussions and your solo presentations. So no sooner did the Quantum Summit 2 end that the creative juices started flowing, and we're beginning the planning of Quantum Summit 3. So there'll be more details to come, but I can assure you that as phenomenal as Quantum Summit 2 was, Quantum Summit 3.0 is going to be off the charts. So stay tuned. Now, today, as I said, we're launching a new series called the Quantum Sisterhood Roundtable Global Consciousness. And we have some of the leading female voices in the spiritual and geopolitical arenas gathered here for this new series. And our goal is to pool our respective knowledge, personal experience, professional backgrounds, and intuition, and bring you intriguing and provocative conversations about the current state of Mother Earth and the geopolitical landscape through the lens of spirituality. And because we each come from a different, different backgrounds and purposes, I'm sure that we're going to have some very amazing conversations and lead us down different rabbit holes and, make it really interesting for you guys to enjoy. And we will be coming to you once a month with our roundtable. We'll usually be up and posted by about the third week of the month going forward. So we really invite your feedback to this new show and the format here on the Mel Carmine Show. And please like, share if you enjoy it, and leave your comments below because that's going to help us to, formulate new ideas for going forward with this. So without further ado, we're gonna start this today by bringing you into the fold of who we each are and what our unique purpose is, and then we'll get into some discussions, where humanity and Mother Earth are at this moment in time. So let's just go around. Laura, would you like to start?
Hey, everybody, it's Laura Eisenhower. I'm so grateful to be a part of this wonderful roundtable with so many amazing women. And yeah, I'm an author, I'm a researcher, I'm a public speaker. My great grandfather was President Dwight David Eisenhower. So my whole life has been about digging deep into oh gosh, the hidden layers of what took place during his administration, trying to really understand what he meant in his final speech about the military industrial complex and what we're dealing with in the world today. What are the deep state agendas? What is going on with what we see in the world news? What are the roots of all this? So I'd like to go into galactic history. I'm also an astrologer, and I like to tie astrology into the medical to gain self-knowledge, self-awareness, and yeah, really just gaining the ability to really harness our creative power and call that energy back so that we can manifest a future that is divine and on this organic ascension timeline instead of the engineered trajectory that the human race has been grappling with for way too long.
Wow, great. Okay, who'd like to go next? Who'd like the hot seat next?
I'll go then. Hi, my name is Marisa Acacella, and I am a cartoonist and a graphic novelist and a writer, illustrator. Since the 1990s, I've been a New Yorker cartoonist. I've written for different publications like the New York Times. I was the first cartoonist to have a column there in the Sunday Style section. I had a column in W magazine. I've written for so many different publications. My graphic novel Cancer Vixen is one of the, according to Time magazine, one of the best graphic novels ever written, and also according to Reader's Digest. I'm a New York Times best-selling author. And ever since I could remember, I've been obsessed with finding out the truth and what our mission here is on this planet and how humanity can turn this world around. I feel like that we have been lied to since the beginning. I knew this from a very early stage in my life. Even when I was 7 years old, I wondered why, who gave birth to the planet, who gave birth to the universe? Was it really a man who gave birth to all of this? So that's one of the things I always questioned. I've always questioned everything throughout my entire life. So, and I've always been obsessed with finding out the truth and creating our mission and creating a better place and humanity becoming one with the divine. So I've been obsessed with that. And I'm really grateful to be here with everybody. Laura and I have our own show, Divine Mother Earth Time. And That's been really amazing. And I'm really grateful that Elisa, you invited me. It's nice to meet you, Catherine. And Charnel, you're one of my most loved people in the whole world. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you here. Very honored. Okay, Catherine
Uh,
or Charnel? All right, Charnel.
my name is Dr. Charnel Wolverton Sihon, and my background is actual spirituality. I did conference speaking and have authored several books and did television for 3 years back in the 90s, the 1900s. That sounds funny saying that now, like I'm an old person, but yeah, I transitioned to a more integrative medicine avenue career and kind of morphed and marriage spirituality to science by going back and getting my naturopathic doctorate. I have my own practice, but I also still do conference speaking and have a podcast. When we got off television, we moved to a podcast back in, I guess, 2012, sometime around there. And that channel was taken down during the 2020 mess, and we started over a little bit later. But yeah, I'm obsessed with truth also. I had an encounter in 2009 with or 2008 with some really powerful beings. One was named True, and the other was named Living. And I that's all I think about is how to embody truth and how to actually live in truth and what is truth, meaning everything from the biggest thing in politics and on the worldviews all the way to our little tiny mega little choices that we make of what to wear and what to eat. And do we go to this grocery store or that grocery store today at 2 o'clock? And who do we hang out with? And how that affects our energy, how that affects our chemistry, our biology, and how it affects our biofield, which is constantly creating in this torrent of radiation and magnetization. So we are in this fun group to talk about all these things, and I'm really delighted to meet with all of you guys on a regular basis. And not only because I'm selfish in some ways, and I love having an outlet of somehow being able to talk with great women and getting their perspectives, but also just because it's fun and I'm hoping to help people. Like I really, really love that we can bring maybe inspiration and courage to others, that we can maybe bring perspective to others, information to others, education to others, and hopefully provide a way for people to not feel as alone in what they're thinking and what they're feeling. Because I think part of what we're seeing a lot is there's just this really onslaught campaign of making people feel isolated and different and making that wrong. And right now, for me, I love diversity and I love the fact that we are also different on purpose for the purpose of us coming together as one and being one to bring that diversity to the planet. And appreciate you guys so much. And I just feel like this is a great time to be alive, even though it's has a lot of sorrow days and grief days and confusion days. Here we are for whatever reason all together in this time, and here, and let's do this. Let's get the planet back to its rightful ownership place of love and truth.
Beautiful. Okay, Catherine.
Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Edwards and I'm from the UK. And thank you so much, Eliza, because it's so fantastic to be with this amazing group of women. I'm so looking forward to this because it feels a bit isolated over in the UK. I was saying to you before, it feels like a lot of the action's happening over in America. And so it's really nice to be included. And at the moment, I'm a holistic biologist and a holistic health practitioner. And what I do is I work with humans and animals to really restore balance. And how I do that, like most holistic practitioners, is I'm looking at everything, mind, body, spirit. I'm looking very much at the environment, and everything I do is about connection back to nature. Hence the fact that I work so much with animals, because honestly, they're my real passion. But obviously, when you're working with animals, the humans are the decision makers. So it's a partnership. I do work with humans as well on their own, but I've had a very varied career. I'm a mum to two humans and also to lots of animals, and I've got a real passion for rehabbing rescue animals, but also for anything that's connected with nature. You know, my background, I've had so many careers really. I've worked in environmental management. I worked for Nokia, so all the EMF side of things and everything. I've worked in huge project management jobs all over the world. And before 2020 hit, I never understood why I'd had such to do it. All my college friends, you know, they got into a big company and stuck there and worked their way out. And I've had all this really convoluted career that no one could really understand. And then 2020 hit, and I was like, oh my God, this is just perfect. All the bits of the jigsaw puzzle are putting together. So I see myself very much as a connector. I know a little about a lot of things, and I think one of my things I can do, whether I'm working with people or animals on an individual basis, or I do host my own podcast and YouTube channel, like Dr. Chanel, I've lost a few on the way, like Laura, etc., and we keep rebuilding because my channel's all about expanding consciousness through curiosity. And what I mean by that is just keep asking the questions, not pretending that I've got the answers, but really looking at it from, if we don't know what the problems are facing us, how can we possibly know what solutions to look for? So I love the balance of science and nature and spirituality and holistic, and really just constantly evolving all the tools I've got in my toolbox, both for my immediate two and four-legged family, all the people I work with, but very much trying to have these conversations, you know, these really conscious conversations, because a lot of what's happening on planet Earth at the moment isn't working out too well. There's some really amazing things, but there's definitely things we could do a lot better. And I think the time is now. I really do.
Yeah, well said. Beautiful. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. You guys, a lot of you that are watching know, but I'm Elisa Valentino, go by Elisa V. I'm a holistic life transition coach. So I help people that are going through any kind of challenging life transitions, with a, you know, whether it's divorce or it's empty nest or it's changing careers, or, you know, just trying to find a balance in terms of like where they fit in. And my background is business. So I was in marketing and sales and brand management for a very long time, decades, having grown up in a family business, which had a whole slew of challenges and interesting experiences. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always been had a mindset of creativity and wanting to create, whether it's businesses or opportunities or work with people. And I've had the pleasure of leading teams and managing people and spending a lot of time traveling for business throughout the United States and even Asia early in my career. And what happened was I transitioned from this kind of big career into being a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. And I guess the awakening moment, I mean, similar to all of you ladies, I always had a passion for the truth. I always questioned a lot of things. I always felt kind of like the oddball, you know, whether it was with friends or family, like because I saw things a little different or I was trying to figure things out. I think we all share that, you know, from what I'm hearing, we all kind of share that desire to understand what's really going on. And after I got divorced, after 18 years, I had two children. I it was a very bad experience for me. It was, you know, I went from this wealthy Long Island, Hamptons, you know, summer home, stay-at-home mom to all of a sudden being a sole parent with no father involved in the situation. And what started to happen was it was like sink or swim time. And I said, I've gone through this awful experience. I don't want to go back into the business world where I was. And it really brought me emotionally to, through this, a lot of growth, a lot of awakening, and I wanted to help other people. So that's when I decided to become a holistic certified coach, helping people with their own challenges. And the goal really being to help people understand the whole, mind, body, and spirit connection, but also in light of understanding how they can empower themselves more to embrace their intuition, to embrace their own strength of their consciousness, work with their frequency to be in those higher states, right? Because when we go through challenges, it's kind of easy sometimes to fall into fear and lack. So that's kind of been my passion. And through that, I started podcasting. I started with the Transformation Talk Radio Network, and I hooked up with Mel because I interviewed him, which was just very fortuitous. And then at the time, he was looking to expand and brought me on as one of his co-hosts. So I work very closely with him. And now I'm going to be having a new channel as well, a new podcast on Gnostic TV. So I think I've always been frustrated to talk to people and help people. I would give a lot of unsolicited advice. And so I love the platforms that we have and this opportunity to bring, and I don't feel like the whole like male versus female, but I do feel like the energies are very different. And part of why it was so important to me is that to bring this platform, this group of women that do bring some very strong and powerful female energies, to a platform that kind of balances out, with the way Mel is and his own persona. And I think it offers a completely different view into a lot of these geopolitical topics, whatever they are, whether it's finance, whether it's technology, whether it's the political the whole political situation that's going on. And I'm hearing from everyone, like, it's kind of interesting because I was making mental notes, like we all want to help, whether it's humans or non-humans. We all love the truth and want to always try to dig deeper to find out what that truth is. And I also think that what we all bring together is that all these different backgrounds we have, it's like the spiritual is finally coming together with a lot of the, what we would call maybe secular. And it's just such a beautiful time. And I think that's one of the things that prompted me to want to put this together and get people, women especially, from these different backgrounds, but we all kind of have a commonality about, how we want to help and we want to bring the truth out. So I'm so happy that all of you wonderful ladies wanted to be part of this. And I'm looking forward to many, many episodes and many different topics that we can talk about. So I thought maybe where we could start, and I want it to be really organic, and I wanted to just go and we'll feel free to just kind of jump in and, have like as if we were sitting around having, a nice cup of tea and just shooting the breeze and having conversations about these things. But I want to open it with maybe a question like, where are we currently here on Earth from a spiritual perspective? And, what do you see going on right now out there in the world? Oh, you're muted. Laura, you're muted.
Hi. Okay. Yeah, sure. I guess I'll start. I usually look at things from an astrological perspective of where we're at as a humanity. And what's very telling are the outer planets, Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, which all happen to be in harmony with each other. And when planets are in harmony with each other, it means that there's, a good conversation going on between them. When there's squared aspects, which are more about, challenge, conflict, it can be a catalyst for growth, or it can keep a person and even the collective, looping. And, the collective is the collective consciousness. And when we look at the whole concept of awakening, we need enough numbers of awakened people to shift the trajectory of, the human race. And that's different than what we go through individually. What we see in the collective landscape is not necessarily the same as what we're experiencing in our own individual lives. That's why a lot of people feel frustrated, or the heaviness of the density, or, what is wrong with, humanity? Why aren't they just getting it? And over the course of the last couple decades, in this particular ascension window period, we've noticed, that a lot of people are waking up, but the waking up process very often is discovered through some kind of trauma or trigger event, when finally the facades begin to fall away. And those facades show up as psyops or false flags or engineered events. We see the manipulation of weather with geoengineering. We see the spraying of our skies, the manipulation of, the altering of our food with GMOs, the fluoride in our water. And the list is so long, as far as what we're exposed to from the time we were born. And then, of course, the indoctrination. So every pillar of society has been infiltrated and infected with deep state agendas that people don't really realize are looking to further enslave us. And it very much plays the game of the problem, reaction, solution, so that we're constantly in this dependency bond with this inverted system. We're looking outside of ourselves in response to a trigger event that puts us in fear. And how that relates to our physical health, and how that's infiltrated the medical industry, really disempowers us. And so this time of awakening is really about upgrading in the face of adversity. Can we begin to unlock what is dormant in the face of these challenges? Can we begin to fall back on ourselves, go through that dark night of the soul, and not fear that? Because a lot of people, when it's time for that great initiation, they want to suppress it or take a medication. And we're so thrown, from the time we're, small, labels, when we're trying to process bigger picture stuff, when we get downloads, when we're free thinkers, when we feel, a certain calling. If there isn't a career that aligns with that's being offered to us, well, where does that go? You have to be very courageous and very strong in your determination to just be true to yourself and do it regardless. And I think all of us here have done that. We're creative, we're inventive, we're resourceful within our own selves. And that's kind of the path of being self-employed, or, just the creator of your own reality with all the different tools and modalities that you've learned along the way. So what I'm seeing is, on a massive scale, with these outer planets in harmony with each other, the ability for humans to really move through these growth periods without the conflict that we used to see when they were square each other. When they were square at each other, it was more about very disruptive events that people didn't know how to manage as easily. So, for example, the North Node is in Pisces, conjunct Neptune. Neptune, in harmony with Uranus, takes that Neptune energy to the higher octave of connection with the higher mind and higher dimensions, versus this lower sort of astral that has a lot of imposter energies, a lot of false channeling, and where we get caught in belief systems, where our creative channels have been infected by propaganda, false narratives, and everything that is harvesting and siphoning our creative imagination to engineer these artificial timelines. This is now an opportunity, with Pluto also in harmony, now in Aquarius, to begin to release what doesn't serve us, to begin to feel into those epiphanies that come with Uranus, the synchronicities, the connection with our higher mind, and our capacity to be the visionaries of what we can manifest. Realizing, wow, the greatest conspiracy is us forgetting who we are, and being convinced we're less than who we are, and how much our greater potential has been used against us and manipulated into these outer scenarios that we end up consenting to and enabling without realizing it. So to me, it's no different than being married or in a relationship with a narcissist or an abuser. You keep making excuses for it. You don't want to see the deeper layers of how this person is operating. Maybe they're cheating. Maybe they're stealing your money. Maybe they're harming your children behind your back, right? So we're ready for this awakening. We no longer can sit and deny what other people have been calling out for a long time. There's no more room for that because too much is at stake. Too many children are being harmed. All this stuff that's coming to light is very much about the Pluto energy. And now that it's out there, are we going to turn a blind eye? Or are we going to step up and be the guardians and protectors of future generations and be stewards of, Mother Earth, and recognize that we're elemental beings. We're very, very powerful. We're connected to nature and the planetary grid network, and we have to get out of this dependency bond that's in a reversal spin, these dark technologies that are put in place to digress us, and recognize that we're being slowly poisoned, and we have been, and further enslaved the more we continue to consent to this abusive partner that is now the system in society, infiltrated in every pillar of society. So the swamps have to be drained everywhere, and it starts with ourself. We have to win the war on consciousness from within. And when we do that, and when we're empowered, and when we take charge of that creative imagination, we become the conduit of organic ascension, of moving through these greater growth periods and initiations to begin to switch on the dormant strands of DNA. And that breaks that dependency bond, and that parasitic inverted system no longer can feed on you. And you realize that you were the powers that be. They were the powers that stole. And when you begin to take your power back, everything changes. So we're seeing with Uranus and Taurus currency changing. We're seeing the breakdown of the old system and the rebuilding of the new, the Doge and all that, and the deconstruction for the reconstruction. We're seeing a lot of casualties in this war, but we're also seeing a rebirth with the Pluto into Aquarius. But with that, we see AI. We see a lot of the tech stuff with the Uranus energy ruling Aquarius. And how are we going to manage the AI and the technological without losing the spiritual? What have we learned from the times of Atlantis? What have we learned in the depths of our soul from all the experiences that we've had? How can we, step into that Neptune energy, which represents the unconscious, and switch it on so that it's no longer unconscious, but conscious, which means that when we're conscious, we can begin to dismantle the programmings that have infected our minds, that then lead to our minds talking to our bodies, the programming or the negative talk that makes us sick. So the nodes of Pisces and then the South Node Virgo, which is our physiology and physical health and physical lifestyle that we're reflecting upon, is helping us to see what are our physical symptoms. How can we get closer to ourselves in the face of dis-ease so that we can begin to deprogram the root of that and step into the purifying energies that come from source, come from our higher self, come from our creative imagination and our ability to manifest something beautiful. And when we dismantle these programmings, we also dismantle the power of the dark technology. And then we, notice that, wow, we're the higher technology. We can actually de-weaponize the weapons by winning this war from within, because the ultimate weapon is the control of the mind control, the social engineering. It works in tandem with the bioweapons. So I see humanity's getting a grip on that. But I see a lot of divide and conquer, but I see it's reaching a boiling point where people realize the priority is love and unification. This doesn't make sense that we're all fighting and squabbling amongst each other. These outer parents of society aren't our real parents. They're like foster parents that have kept us from our true source code, our divine blueprint. Let's move away from them pitting us against each other and recognize that we come from unconditional love. We come from a far more greater source, and it's encoded in our DNA. And let's be that divine inheritance. Let's allow that to move through us so that we can, recognize the intervention comes through us. And then opening up to our greater galactic heritage and what these dormant strands of DNA actually hold with the higher harmonic universes and the greater, multi-dimensions and our galactic history. So to understand that is to truly heal, to be operating from false history, rewritten history, and the suppression of our true origins. How can we possibly heal without that knowledge? We wouldn't be able to heal from our own childhood if we were given false memories. So we have to be brave and face the truth and understand it's not about adopting an outer belief system. It's about getting to know yourself, standing strong in your authenticity, and with mutual love and respect, allowing others to do the same. And then being a part of this greater conversation with an open mind and an open heart, with also our discernment and our boundaries in check. And that's where Saturn comes in, moving from dark inverted Saturn, which is all about control, mandates, tyranny, into self-mastery, which is the higher octave. And that's what Saturn represents, connected to the North Node and this huge eclipse that we just had. We're in this eclipse window. Can we take that dark inverted Saturn and and turn it into empowerment, discernment, boundaries, and working with the law of structure to be the container of the multidimensional and anchoring heaven on earth. And that's where I see we're heading. And everybody's having their growth period, their breakdown, their crisis, their trauma event to really switch themselves on. But the question is, can you get to know yourself in the face of this? Or are you going to continue to give that power away? And if you are giving that power away, is that individual helping you find yourself? Or are they further exploiting your amnesia and taking you further away from yourself? Trust your gut, listen to, what your higher guidance is telling you, work on developing that intuition, and don't be afraid to say no and stand your ground, regardless of what anybody thinks.
I want to just point out something you said that was it kind of resonated when you said that this is almost like a divorce, or divorcing a narcissist or someone that's just not good for us. It's very funny because as a coach, I see not only that journey of recognizing, right? There's the recognition part where we have to recognize that who this person really is, or in this case, the systems that are out there. But once you do, that's, I think, where a lot of us come in. People start to feel, they go through that isolation because, and I just saw it this week with a client of mine. She knew this intellectually. She knew what was going on with her former partner and everything, but it hit her like, oh my gosh, like this is really who this person is, and it hit her on a visceral level. And I think that's what people are going through right now with this awakening process. They'll get it intellectually, but the pain starts to happen, or the grief, everything you thought was a certain way, or the trust you put into these systems and these organizations to realize you were really betrayed. That's really where the healing needs to happen, because the grief process is what's going to help get through from this point to that point. So I love that analogy. And I think when people recognize how duped they've been in so many areas, they're looking now for communities and people that feel the same, that they don't feel further left out or alone, because a lot of the people haven't reached that point that they have.
Oh, I love it. I honestly, there's so much you both said there that I think is so important. And I think for me, picking up on what you both said, I think we're at such a stage of disconnection from on every little level, on the macro and the micro level. So we're disconnected from ourselves and our own ability. And like you were saying, Laura, we've all got so many abilities that we're not tapped into. I mean, I do a lot of animal communication and people laugh at it, but every single person on the planet can communicate with trees, with animals, with each other. We've been so disconnected from our intuition, our physical abilities, our emotional abilities, because this deception that's bombarded and overwhelmed everyone. But we've also been so disconnected from the planet. And in my understanding, the planet can survive very well without us, but we can't survive without nature. And we've taken a role as a general humanity of, over the last goodness knows how many, of being controllers of, or thinking we control it. And every time humans think that they can intellectualize the healing process, it normally goes pretty wrong in my experience. There's so many natural remedies out there, but if we've all got a liver issue, the one that I might need might be very different to what Laura needs, to what Dr. Chanel needs, because we've got different influences. And tapping in, getting back connection with ourselves is absolutely key, because when you look at any area, whether it's your physical health, I mean, look at all these reality TV shows. Take something like Dancing on Ice. I don't know if you have that over in the States, but when people are challenged, we can do so much more than we're doing on a daily basis. And the disconnection from our intuition has been so deliberate, and it's been done in so many different ways. But once we start realizing all of this is possible, everything starts shifting, because I see so many discussions going on, and I've been involved in many of them. And I feel this at times when I'm disconnected about who do I trust? What do I believe? And actually, when we get that connection back, which can be so simple, it can be as simple as getting out in nature more, taking ourselves away, trusting us to say what we really think, not what we're meant to say. The the more we practice it, it's a skill that we can all regain much quicker than we think we can and that we're told we can. And this shaming culture where, you know, the political correctness, and if people stand up and want to even discuss another opinion, I think again it's all part of the disconnect, because that's the easiest way to shut people down, is to shame them and mock them and make them isolated from other people. And I think if we can be a little bit braver in general, I'm talking to everyone out there, to really not think that you need to know the answers, but be much braver in asking the questions when you can see that there's something not right. We can shift things. And one of the things you said, Laura, which I thought was so important, is about, I ponder this a lot, and I'd love to know what you all think. This balance between how much do we need to know about our past, so how much of our inattention should be focused on the truth, finding out the real truth of what's happening in the past to inform where we're going, and how much of our attention do we want to be saying, so what's happened there, let's just really just focus all our energy on moving forward. And I think it's quite complex, and I think certainly we can see that playing out on the political stage a lot at the moment, where people are really caught in terms of, yeah, I want the Epstein files, but hang on a minute, we're really pleased that the administration is moving forward and doing things very differently. I'd love to know what people think about that, about how much do we want to be looking backwards, and how much of our attention we want to be in creating something completely new.
Can I jump in?
Mm.
I think it's a little both. I know I do a lot of reverse speech, and when we say things forward, our subconscious is actually speaking backwards. And I asked that very question just a few weeks ago. You could use a recorder, and maybe it was just more individual for me, but there were some things that I was diving into that's like, how much do I really need to know about the past or the trauma things that had been going on? And it said that if I went any further, it would destroy me.
Wow.
That's what my subconscious said. But anyway, I love everything that you guys are saying. And as far as what I'm seeing, and I'm not saying that, by the way, I'm not saying that that's for everybody. I'm just saying, I think I like talk therapy, but I think when we know too much, it can fracture and cause parts to just be too fractured. And also, maybe someone needs that personally, or maybe we need that as a planet on some levels. But I think it's a customizable thing with each and every person and each and every situation. I don't think it's a cookie cutter, one size fits all, answer. But going back to the question that Elisa was having, I wrote down a few things even before we got on here. And I actually pulled a card. I created this card deck, and for this one, for today, where we are, it talks about the decree is, I am awake, and so is my world. And it's celestite, which talks about calming and peace, but also like throat chakra and speaking your truth and living your truth and being in your truth. New beginnings is something that keeps coming up. A year ago, I actually had a dream about us entering into a golden age. I didn't know what golden age was. I actually had to look it up when I woke up, and I had been talking about this, and I think Laura and I did a show on it, if I remember right. And I know we've done several shows since then, and then it became a big thing where everyone's talking about this golden age. What people don't always talk about when we have new beginnings and new doors, everyone gets excited, especially like January or new resolutions. People don't always think with new doors, sometimes that means leaving a room that you were just in. And like several of you have alluded about this grief concept, we are going through that individual grief, but I think as a planet, and at least as a country, and I think that's ripple effect to other countries, there's a grief process there as well. And when we go through this death cycle or dark night of the soul, like Laura mentioned, grief is funny. I always thought of grief as very emotional, meaning, tears, sad, maybe a heavy heart. Literally, scientifically, there are some things that will not detox any other way except for tears. And so if we suppress or depress or oppress that grief feeling, it goes into the body and it'll lodge into a system somehow and it will start to show signals somewhere. And we have that on an individual basis and or a whole planet basis. And I think in the past we have been programmed to depress or suppress or oppress and not talk about it. And I think now there's a lot more people who are willing to do the opposite, which is express and kind of communicate those things and or to defrag some of that emotionally. And I know that when I was studying grief, again, I thought it was more emotional and that it was just a feeling. But there's actual physical neuroscience to this because when we have pathways that go, I mean, with patterns that we have, when those doors are shut and those pathways are now different, let's say there's a death or you lose a job or whatever, you have all these tiny, tiny little choices that you make every day. You get in the car and you know, or you get dressed, you get in the car and then you go to your job, or you wake up and have coffee with your partner. Maybe the partner's not there anymore. Maybe the job's not there anymore. So these tiny pathways that used to have like a rut in the mind of this is what I always did for the last 15, 20 years, whatever. Now the GPS of our systems are like recalculating because those pathways don't have the same outcome anymore, or the person's not there, the job's not there. So the brain still wants to do the same thing, but there's like a halt or a stop or a loop there where it's like we physically have to make new choices now and create new habits that create new pathways. And that is a physical process. So the body feels that. And so it's not just emotional, but there are these physical aspects that go with grief that maybe sometimes people don't talk about. And I just really honor everyone who's going through that. Ugh, I mean, emotional myself. Like I just feel it. Um, I just honor your process with that, whatever that process is. Like it's okay, and allow yourself space and time to integrate that. And don't be hard on yourself if you're not like stronger or faster than maybe your neighbor or whoever else. And just give yourself that time because there has been a lot of exposure. There's been a lot of disclosure, not just on the a physical individual level, but obviously on the country and world stage. We are seeing things like Doge and all these other things that are just like more and more and more. And some people, it's so overwhelming, they're just like, I can't. And they're just not able to even participate or believe it because it's just maybe too alarming, or they don't want to believe it, or their ego has been so stuck in believing a certain way that it physically will not like translate for them to be wrong, which is stupid and sad and like ridiculous because like why not? Like I've been way wrong for years and years and years on a lot of things. And yeah, there was like a death to it, but also it's like, okay, well, this is the new thing and I'm okay with that and I participate. So I invite you guys to give yourself time, I invite you guys to participate, I invite you guys to let that process happen. The other thing I will say is just like I think it was Laura was talking about like the negative patterns and what have you. Anything less than your highest choice will always contain self-sabotage. And so if you are seeing those negative patterns through the disclosure or through your own awakening and saying like, you know what, this has not worked for me, and this partnership's not working for me, this job's not working for me, whatever the situation, we come to grips with that. You know, sometimes people think, well, I'll just go get a new partner, or I'll just go get a new job, or I'll just go do all these other things. The problem is if it's us, which it is, creating some of this, no matter where we go, we're still going to be there. And we'll just use other people's jobs to create the same scenario if we don't change this and here. And so when we see those things in the reflection of our consciousness come back to us and it's the same patterns, whether again it's individual or our government or whatever, if we don't change and make a new choice, then we're going to keep seeing these patterns. And I think when, or I don't think, I know when I keep seeing the same stuff and I'm just like, daggone, really? I thought I fixed that. Um, it's a gift to be able to see that show up. And if we look at it as a gift instead of a burden, then we can make the new choices and we can say, you know what? And there are people who are getting so rock bottom and so tired of seeing this over and over and over again that they're making new choices, and that's an awesome opportunity for all of us. Um, the last thing I could say for right now, and I mean, there's a lot to say. Obviously, we could all talk for hours, but community. Um, I am seeing, although those rooms are left and that maybe those people are left, and I'm not talking about canceling because I'm very anti-cancel culture. I think that's ridiculous. And I think people who just cancel everyone for whatever reason, unless it's like abuse, I think that there's a weird program right now where people are just canceling for pretty much anything under the umbrella and facade of self-care. And I think when people just run away from a situation and don't have a resolution of some kind, or at least an agreement to disagree, then they're stifling their growth in the ways of being able to commune and have resolution and work, have people skills and learn how to love people no matter what, and to talk about things. Again, I'm not talking about abuse, but I mean, when I grew up, my parents, if my sister and I weren't getting along, my parents made us sit in a room and duke it out until we had a resolution, and or at least agreed not to agree, just but these days there's this all like barely someone says something, they're like, oh, I'm not friends, everyone's blocked, and there's like, there's no room to learn or grow with that. So I'm not talking about that, but what I am seeing is to observe and not absorb, love someone from distance, and or in these new rooms that we're going into and choosing the community or come unity. The communion or come union is really, really happening. We are finding each other over the last 5 years. We are partnering. We are increasing energy because of numbers. I think we're all seeing that in all different avenues and different spectrums. And that is a fun path and an exciting path, and an encouraging path for people to, again, not feel so alone and not feel so isolated, where they may have thought whatever and they were bullied or condemned or whatever because of whatever they were believing. And now we're like, you know what? We have social media, we have Zooms, we may not be able to meet in real life, but even like this is a representation of that, of people finding one another to be together, which again brings not just community, but creativity. When we're together as individuals and as a corporate conscious level, there's so much opportunity for creativity, whether it is business or partnership or politics or health or whatever. And so I'm excited in a lot of ways. I am also grieving every time I say it. Um, Not just on some personal things that I'm going through and transitioning with and trying to, really grab a hold of, but also on this like whole earth scale. Like I feel that, it saddens me in a lot of ways that there are people in a sense that hmm, I choose to say it. It appears that they're being left behind, or they're leaving themselves behind, and in ways that they're not completely on board yet. And that makes me sad because a lot of these people are brilliant and they're smart and they have skills and they have big hearts, and they're still refusing to participate in the truth, for whatever reason, ego, or just it's too hard, or I don't know. But yeah, creativity has helped me tremendously to be able to cope. And again, everyone keeps talking about this, but I'm also a big fan of animals and nature and the code of that. I work at a rescue also. And, I personally am not even at home right now. I left to go out from leave for a week to just be in nature. on purpose because I'm integrating myself. And I think there's times when we need to do that just to keep our sanity. So that's just my 2 cents.
Wow, a lot of points there, and it's interesting because when we were at the summit last week, we had an opportunity, Laura, I don't know if you were there when Dr. Jan Halper Hayes was talking, and one of the things she was talking about was kind of this cognitive dissonance and what happens with a lot of this disclosure to people. So, being a coach and then coming from a family of therapists, um, that's something that I guess I've been sort of taught a lot of empathy about, that it's not always just ego, or it's not just, it may appear that way, or it may look as if someone's being obstinate or just refusing. But she was saying that even on the team, there are so many psychologists and psychiatrists that participate in understanding what humans are going through with all of this and the best way to do it. And you're going to have some people that get it, and we don't know what our own spiritual history is. Like, we talk about our human history here on earth, right? And our mothers and our fathers and whatever experiences we've had, but we don't know what we come to the earth with, and these experiences that might put us in a slower or, more resistant state. And I think I hear people all the time, like, oh, just throw it out there and, screw these people that aren't getting it, and the sleepers. And yes, I get that frustration. Trust me, I've had those moments within myself, but I think part of our job, here as healers and awakened, is to provide that kind of safe place. And I mean that, I don't mean that in a woke way. I mean a safe place where people can take their time, and there's empathy and there's understanding that we're not all the same, and everybody is going to react to this stuff in a different way and process it differently. And it's scary. It's scary when you expect things, or you get used to something a certain way, and then you're told, that wasn't really good for you. Or did it's like you said, Chanel, the neural pathways are there already. They're going in one direction. So now you have to kind of wait for them to catch up and form new ones, because the way you've been. And the best example I can give is that there was a gentleman, maybe in his 70s, at my mom's golf club, and he was literally, before the election, almost in tears, that about looking at the political situation and realizing that intellectually he couldn't vote a certain way, even though his family had voted that way for decades, because he knew that the right direction was the other way. And he was in this like awful, painful state, because it was such a change. So I totally agree. Like, I think also, as spiritual people and women, I that was another reason I wanted to not to say that women can't be kind of hard asses and men can't be empathetic. I'm not saying that, but I think there's a divine feminine that, as together, when we talk about these things, we bring, and it brings maybe the softer side of how to interact with people, whether they're our friends or family or coworkers, where we're letting them be, and just they'll get there on their own time. So I wanted to add that. But Marisa, we want to hear from you and your thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, there's so many so many great points that have been made throughout this conversation. And I guess I'm going to start by talking about my own experience, which, coming from New York media and posting things and being very open about where I am at the moment, and being canceled by so many of my friends in New York media, who just basically have told me they're unfollowing me. They never want to talk to me again. And they really don't care, like, what's in our food, what's in our air, what's in our water. And my feeling is that those people have their point of view, and I think trying to wake people up at this point is futile. You could only do what you can do and speak the truth as you see it. And I think that I'd rather be, we're talking about creativity, I'd rather be a creator than a destroyer. I don't want to burn bridges. I don't want to, hate people because of they think a certain way and I think one way. I think there's been this whole divide and conquer humanity master plan that's worked really, really well as of late. And I think if we focus on what divides us, we are going to be divided. But if we focus on what unites us and see the spark within each and every person and leave the door open for conversation, I think humanity has a chance. I think that we are at humanity's climactic moment here. I think, you could say, yes, I voted for this one person, and yeah, they're in power right now, and it's really great, but we can't be blind cheerleaders either. We have to look at what's being said and what's being done, and is this better for humanity as a whole? And how can we benefit from this? And we're talking about history and what's been done in the past in our galactic history. And I do believe that history does repeat itself, but I also think that what we need to do is move on as a species and connect with the divine and with source consciousness and forget about mainstream narratives and what's going on in the media and really practice discernment and connect with what our mission is. And I think that is really, really important. I also think that courage is a chain reaction. And once you start speaking the truth, and once you start questioning things, other people will do the same if they're like-minded. And the ones that don't, again, I believe in leaving the door open because I believe also in forgiveness. And everybody makes mistakes. Am I right all the time? No. Am I wrong a lot? Yeah, but have I gone out of my way to speak when I think things are really bad and when people have made decisions that have not been to their betterment or the betterment of their children? Have I suffered for that? Yeah, but you know what? I still would speak out. I still would talk, and I still think that we need to give a voice to what is really going on and speak out for humanity, speak out for the children, speak up for saving this planet because it's worth it. In terms of uh, the divine feminine, I'm also seeing a rise of the divine masculine, which I think is really great. Men are back. And you know what? I think that's really important that we have that balance.
Yes.
I don't think, I think it's like, two sides of a coin. And I think we complement each other. And I think, I'm loving seeing men embody their strength again, just like I love seeing women embody their strength. I think it's really, I celebrate both. I celebrate both. And I think about that movie Starman. I
Mm.
love that movie with Jeff Bridges where he says, humanity, when things are at your very worst, that's when you're at your very best. And I think we're at that point right now where it's time for humanity to rise. This is our moment. And I think if we play our cards right and see the divine spark in everybody and bypass and not participate in the divide and conquer humanity master plan, but instead embrace what unifies us, maybe, just maybe, we have a choice and a chance to rise. So that's what I focus on. I focus on that mission and focus on humanity expressing its own divinity, its own Christic body, the Christ consciousness, and that is my mission. And I know that many of you are aligned with that. And Laura and our podcast really is about that. And Charnel, you and I have talked about this a lot. And I really think I am excited for what's next. Again, I'm still going to point out what I think is not happening or not right. Again, I don't want to be a blind cheerleader, but I do believe, and I do believe that we can do this. Humanity's got this as long as we have each other's back.
I love what you said about the divine masculine too, because again, I think it was all part of that agenda to just strip all of us of our natural divine way of being. And I agree with you. It's nice, you know, this agenda of women being so independent, or at least under that title, that they don't want a man to hold a door for them or pick up something heavy. Like it's so absurd, you know, and I think the complementariness, like you're seeing more men because they've been told for so long, you know, in their way of being exploited, that there's something wrong with being strong and it's somehow hurting other people. And it's such nonsense, you know, and you're starting to see this wave of men just embrace their masculinity, you know? And when men did that over the past, whatever, a couple of decades, like, oh, he's a misogynist, he's this, he's that, and all these ridiculous labels. And then the same is true of women. You know, we've been denied that we have a nurturing side, and that if you don't want to go into the workforce and you want to stay home and have children and just nurture and just take care of your family, like somehow that was wrong, you know, like I think we're coming into this thing where it's like, I guess common sense, you know, like just we are what we are, so let's embrace it and let's respect and honor what the other gender is, and just be able to give each other the respect. So I do love that, and I would love to maybe just put out there that maybe we could do a show about that, you know, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and how in moving forward, that is going to just be, you know, such an asset to moving into this new earth and you know where we're going. Any other thoughts, you guys, or anything else that you want to add?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to add real quick when I mentioned this self-employment. I mean, not everybody can do that. I guess my point was just personal sovereignty. If something doesn't feel right, like when the mandates were happening, when you feel you have to go along with something for the sake of a paycheck, we have to really look at our true self-worth, what we really stand for, you know, the ability to change it from within, you know, that system. Because if you are in a career and you want to stay in that career, uh, and self-employment isn't really an option, you're there for a reason. You know, we all have our own ways and our own calling, but can you be in that position and still stand your ground? And if you stand your ground, what are the ramifications? Are you okay with that versus consenting for the sake of a paycheck? Because self-worth is not just about what's in our bank account. And this is also the Uranus and Taurus. And I just like to look at it like, and I love what everybody said about taking our time with processing and integrating. We can't push this on each other, but we need every book in the library available for people to open up and read without the censorship, without the smear campaigns, so that that library is open, and then you feel into what you resonate with without the indoctrination of you can only think this way and this is banned. And this is what Charnel was talking about. It's just like having all the resources there, that there's more in the curriculum, galactic history, working with the earth, growing food, you know, the understanding about chakras, doing yoga, you know, just all these different options that can be available, not pushed on, you know, each other, not the let's stay in the box and stay, you know, locked into the system. So I just wanted to mention that, because I did mention, oh, be self-employed, and that's not always easy. But are you willing to stand your ground and realize that you could be the agent of change and be part of that draining of the swamp within these pillars of society that have been infiltrated? We have to win the war within and break down the weaponry within our own minds. And if we can do that, the ripple effect will be huge, and we'll notice this huge transformation where these pillars of society are actually serving humanity, not exploiting the vulnerable.
I love that. And I think also just recognizing that as we go through different stages in life, our roles will naturally change. You know, if you look at a herd of horses, it's not the same leader. There's one horse that take leadership for going to find water, and another for defending against predators, and another one for finding the best food, and then other ones for protecting the foals. But your role within the herd shifts at different stages of your life cycle. So when you're young and strong, you might be the protector, and as you get older, you might be the one that shows them where the food and water is. And I think so much of the time when you go through life, everyone's got to learn their own lessons at their own stage. And also there's so many different ways that people can come to a new way of living. When we go back to sort of this, how much do people need to know? And like Marissa, I think you were saying about, I can't remember whether it was you or Chanel, about forcing people to wake up. Well, sometimes it might not be in their best interest, because I've learned recently a lot of people, it's not that they're resistant or burying their head in the sand, it's that they genuinely feel, why would I put my energy on what I don't want? I'm just getting on and creating the life I do want. So there's so many different ways that we as humanity can achieve it. And I think also just that understanding that we as humans are not the center of the world. We're sharing this planet with so many other creatures, but we are unfortunately the ones that influence a lot of what goes on. And therefore, as we learn all this stuff, that's why I love discussions like this. As we learn, we share. As we learn, we share, because that's for everyone's benefit. Just when you share the mistakes you've made so that others don't have to go through them, and you share the breakthroughs that you've made so that others can get there quicker.
Yeah, I love that. Just my own personal story, just like when we talk about like seeing things. So about a year and a half ago, I had to do some post-divorce matters in court, which I can tell you every year I've been going back for this nonsense. And I was walking my dog and feeling so sorry for myself. And I was like, why is he doing this? And I can't stand it. And when is this going to end? And please. And, I was owed a lot of money. And it was like something divine just hit me in that moment. And I was like, it's going to end when you want it to end.
Hmm.
And I just realized, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to spend all this money on legal fees every time I spend more money? Because, he's in a fight mode. It's diminishing what I'm, like, done. If I keep worrying about this, I can't build my, what I'm doing with the podcasting. I can't, have more flourishing relationships. I'm not as, clear-minded when dealing with my children and my pets. And it was just, that was it. I just said, I'm done. I called the lawyer. I said, I don't care what he owes me. It's over. It's done. My life is moving forward. And I think that's the kind of moments that people come to, even with a lot of the disclosure. It just will all of a sudden hit them. Are they being victimized or are they not? Because in the end, that's what a lot of this is about, right? The disclosure. We're looking at all the ways we were duped or lied to or victimized, and I think to a number of you ladies had said, is it smart to look at the past or the negative, or is it better to move forward? And, sometimes it doesn't make sense. It maybe there's a knowing that, okay, but I want to focus on what's ahead, because then that vibration is going to be a more positive vibration and then infiltrate, and go out there into the collective to other people. So, this has been so amazing. I think we're hitting, like, probably we just hit the hour mark. If Do you guys feel like there's anything else you want to add? Um any
I
other
actually
last
want to say one thing about what you just said, Alyssa. I
Yeah.
think, you know, putting our focus where we put our focus on is what expands. And, you know, I think to focus on building a new life and a new earth and a new world and a new paradigm, a new way of living with new relationships and just new love and a new community. I really like that's where I what I want to focus on, creating a new world. So that's where I'm at. And
Yeah.
happy to be here with you guys doing that, you
Yeah.
gals.
Yeah, I was just gonna say too, I love that because I think oftentimes I can speak for myself. I have been like in fixer mode, whether it's momming or doctoring or spiritual leading or, whatever it is. And we can get caught up in that. And I get the whole legal thing. I was in a similar situation. When I've kind of, my word for this year or words, and I was with Laura and Marisa in Florida, and everyone was talking about, oh, I have a word for the year and all this stuff. I've never done that before. So I was just like, okay, I've had some other rituals, but my word or words, and I don't know if the difference is too much, but surrender and or acceptance. And I don't mean accept the dark or accept like bad behavior or anything like that. I just meant like accept me for me where I am, and also accepting other people's choices where they're at and being okay with whatever that is. And um for me, I'm putting my effort and energy towards working on the things that I can control and that I do have access to, and not trying to make everybody think like me or do what I think feels better or what's even best for them. Um, even though we may know that this is actually better for you if you do this, and it can be frustrating. But when we try to force our will on other people, we're no better than what's been happening all these last few decades of them putting their will on us. And so allowing and surrendering in that way, and just accepting in that way, and being okay with just loving people unconditionally no matter what their choices are, and letting them fall and letting them have the consequences no matter how painful that is to watch and to see and experience. Putting my energy towards creating new earth. I love that. And I love what all of you guys have said. And I love all of you guys. I mean, I don't even know a couple of you, but I can't wait to get to know you guys more. And thank you again for this opportunity.
Oh gosh, I feel that too. I just want to say really quick, it's like a detoxing on every level, right? I mean, we don't have to look at what we're throwing up when we want to flush the toilet. We don't have to overanalyze it. Some might like to, but this is a total purification. And as long as we're breaking old patterns, we're deprogramming, we're moving forward to the best of ourselves, to the highest expression of what we came here to be, the rest will just naturally fall away. So I just wanted to add that.
And
Yeah.
what you said, Chanel, I just made a note because, as we go forward, I like to have kind of a theme to the show, that we can springboard off of. And I just thought, wouldn't it be neat to talk about detachment and acceptance? Because I think what we're all talking about a little bit is this ability to detach so that there's a difference between being connected versus being attached, and I think a lot of that is where a lot of us are going with a lot of these, the disclosure and this and that. Are you so attached to it? Are you letting it kind of flow through you and seeing where it's going to go? So I think that might be an interesting topic going forward, in addition to the divine feminine and masculine. Well, all I can say is thank you. I'm so glad that you all agreed and very enthusiastically to be part of this. I think it's something that people hopefully will enjoy, and I'm looking forward to seeing, comments, to see what people
Yeah.
think and any suggestions or thoughts or ideas that they have. So, I guess we'll see each other next month, right? We'll see each other in April, and we'll be back again, the five of us, the Quantum Sisterhood, and everybody have a wonderful next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Love you guys.
Love you.
Hey, Elisa V here. We all know that legal matters can be costly and stressful. Finding the right representation and dealing with high retainers and hourly bills adds up fast. But what if I told you there's a way to have legal insurance just like your health or car insurance? Legal Shield has leveled the playing field. From just $29.95 a month, you get access to lawyers for personal legal matters. From traffic tickets to real estate issues or trust matters, help is just a tap away on your phone. Call or text 516-493-1742 and use code ELISA Legal to start your journey to legal protection today.